You're scrolling through social media, and everyone's posting about their vacation to Bali, their new Tesla, or their fancy dinner at that restaurant where they charge $30 for 3 pieces of sushi. Meanwhile, you're sitting there eating leftover pizza, wondering if you're the only person on the planet who checks their bank account before buying a coffee. Well, here's what I'm about to tell you. You're not alone. In fact, you're probably doing better than you think, because the average person's financial situation is absolutely wild. And I don't mean wild in a good way. I mean wild like watching someone try to put out a house fire with a garden hose while wearing flip-flops. I've spent way too much time digging through financial data, and what I found will blow your mind. We're talking about 50 of the most shocking money stats about the average person. And here's the crazy part. Each stat gets more unbelievable than the last. We're starting with numbers that'll make you go, huh, that's interesting, and ending with stats that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about money. If you're interested in understanding where you really stand financially compared to everyone else, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if this information helps you out. Let's kick things off with something that'll warm you up to the financial chaos we're about to dive into. Stat number 1. The average American has $6,000 in credit card debt. Now that might not sound too crazy until you realize that's just the average, which means for every person with zero credit card debt, there's someone out there carrying $12,000 on their cards, probably wondering why their minimum payment barely covers the interest. But wait, it gets better. Stat number 2. 40% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. $400. That's less than most people's car payment. We're talking about the cost of a minor car repair, a small medical bill, or replacing a broken appliance. And nearly half the country would have to go into debt or start a garage sale just to handle it. Stat number 3 is where things start getting spicy. The average household debt, including mortgages, is over $140,000. That's more than most people make in 2 years, and they owe it to various institutions who are probably sending them very polite reminder letters every month. Here's stat number 4, and this one's a real kicker. 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Think about that for a second. Nearly 8 out of 10 people are basically financial tightrope walkers, one missed paycheck away from having to explain to their landlord why they're paying rent in monopoly money. Stat number 5. The average person will spend over $200,000 on interest payments throughout their lifetime. $200,000. That's enough to buy a house in some places, and instead, it's just vanishing into the ether, payment by payment, like watching your money get fed to a very expensive, very hungry monster. But here's where it gets really fun. Stat number 6. 64% of Americans retire with less than $10,000 saved. After working for 40 years, most people have less money saved than the cost of a decent used car. It's like training for a marathon and then showing up to the race wearing flip-flops and carrying a bag of donuts. Stat number 7 will make you question everything. The average American spends more on coffee per year than they contribute to their retirement account. We're literally choosing caffeinated beverages over our future selves. Future you is going to be very disappointed in present you's latte addiction. Stat number 8. 57% of Americans have less than $1,000 in their savings account. $1,000. That's barely enough to cover a month's rent in most places, let alone handle any real emergency. It's like trying to use a Band-Aid to fix a broken window. Here's stat number 9, and this one's particularly brutal. The average person will work until they're 67, but most people start seriously thinking about retirement at age 55. That's 12 years of panic. 12 years of realizing they should have started saving when they were 25, but instead spent their 20s buying things they can't even remember. And stat number 10, which perfectly sets up how much crazier this is going to get. 83% of Americans don't have a written budget. Most people put more planning into their weekend Netflix binge than they do into managing their money. They'll spend 20 minutes deciding what to watch, but won't spend 20 minutes figuring out where their money goes each month. And trust me, we're just getting started. These first 10 stats are like the opening act at a concert. The real show is about to begin, and it's going to make these numbers look downright reasonable. Now we're moving into housing, and this is where the financial circus really starts getting wild. If you thought the debt numbers were crazy, wait until you see what Americans are doing with the biggest purchase of their lives. Stat number 11. The average American will spend 37% of their income on housing. Now, financial experts say you should spend no more than 30%, which means most people are already failing Housing 101 before they even get their keys. It's like being told the speed limit is 65 and deciding that 75 sounds more fun. But here's stat number 12, and this one's a real eye-opener. 54% of renters spend more than 30% of their income on rent. More than half of renters are basically handing over a third of everything they make to their landlord, then trying to figure out how to live on what's left. It's like playing financial limbo, except the bar keeps getting lower and nobody's having any fun. Stat number 13 is where things get really interesting. The average person will move 11 times during their lifetime, and each move costs about $1,200. That's over $13,000 just for the privilege of packing up your stuff and unpacking it somewhere else. We're literally paying thousands of dollars to stress ourselves out and lose half our belongings in boxes labeled miscellaneous kitchen stuff. Here's stat number 14, and this one will blow your mind. 63% of Americans don't have enough saved for a 20% down payment on the median-priced home in their area. Most people are walking around dreaming about homeownership while having about as much chance of affording it as they do of buying a small island. They're window shopping for houses like they're browsing for yachts. Stat number 15 gets even crazier. The average American will pay over $250,000 in mortgage interest over the life of a 30-year loan. $250,000. That's enough to buy another house, but instead, it's just the cost of borrowing money to buy the first house. It's like paying for 2 houses but only getting to live in one. But wait, there's more. Stat number 16. 43% of first-time homebuyers put down less than 10% on their home purchase. Nearly half of new homeowners are basically renting from the bank while pretending they own something. They're celebrating home ownership while the bank owns 90% of their house. It's like throwing a party because you own one slice of a pizza. Stat number 17 is particularly brutal. The average person spends 6 years saving for a down payment. 6 years. That's longer than most people spend in college, longer than most relationships last, and longer than most cars stay reliable. People are spending more time saving for a house than they spend actually enjoying being young and irresponsible. Here's stat number 18, and this one's a real kicker. 28% of homeowners are house poor, meaning they spend more than 50% of their income on housing costs. More than a quarter of homeowners are basically living in expensive boxes, eating ramen noodles in their granite countertop kitchens, wondering why they can't afford to put food in their stainless steel refrigerators. Stat number 19 will make you question everything about the American dream. The average homeowner will refinance their mortgage 2.8 times. People are constantly reshuffling their debt like they're playing financial musical chairs, hoping to find a better deal while usually just extending how long they'll be paying. It's like being stuck in a revolving door, but convincing yourself you're making progress. And here's stat number 20, which perfectly sets up how much more insane this is going to get. 71% of Americans believe homeownership is part of the American dream, but only 44% think it's achievable for them. Most people are chasing a dream they don't think they can catch, like running after a bus that's already 3 blocks away. And trust me, if you think housing costs are crazy, wait until we get into what people are doing with cars, because that's where financial logic goes to die. Now we're diving into savings, and this is where the financial horror show really hits its stride. If the housing numbers made you uncomfortable, the savings statistics are going to make you want to hide under a blanket and pretend money doesn't exist. Stat number 21. The average American has only $395 in their savings account. $395. That's less than most people spend on groceries in a month. We're talking about an amount that wouldn't cover a decent car repair, a minor medical procedure, or even a really good weekend at Target. It's like trying to use a paper umbrella in a hurricane. But here's stat number 22, and this one's absolutely wild. 57% of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency without going into debt. More than half the country is one broken air conditioner away from financial disaster. They're living life like they're walking on thin ice, except the ice is made of credit cards and the water below is filled with debt collectors. Stat number 23 is where things get really spicy. The average person saves only 5% of their income, but financial experts recommend saving 20%. Most people are saving like they're trying to fill a swimming pool with a teaspoon, then wondering why they're not making progress. It's like training for a marathon by walking to the mailbox once a week. Here's stat number 24, and this one will blow your mind. 36% of Americans have absolutely nothing saved for retirement. More than 1 in 3 people are planning to work until they die, or hoping that lottery tickets count as a retirement strategy. They're approaching retirement like they're playing financial Russian roulette, except most of the chambers are loaded. Stat number 25 gets even crazier. The average 50-year-old has only $43,000 saved for retirement. $43,000. That's supposed to last them for 20 or 30 years of retirement. It's like trying to make a single slice of pizza feed a family of 8 for a week. The math just doesn't work, but somehow people are hoping it'll all work out. But wait, there's more. Stat number 26. 64% of Americans will retire with less than they need to maintain their current lifestyle. Most people are planning to downgrade their entire existence once they stop working. They're looking forward to retirement like they're excited about moving from a house to a cardboard box, but hey, at least they won't have to commute anymore. Stat number 27 is particularly brutal. The average American expects to need 75% of their pre-retirement income to live comfortably in retirement, but most will only have 35%. People are expecting to maintain 3/4 of their lifestyle with 1/3 of their income. It's like expecting to drive from New York to California with a quarter tank of gas and a really positive attitude. Here's stat number 28, and this one's a real kicker. 22% of Americans have less than $5,000 saved for retirement, but they expect to retire comfortably. More than 1 in 5 people have less money saved than the cost of a decent used car, but they're planning to stop working and live happily ever after. It's like showing up to climb Mount Everest wearing flip-flops and carrying a bag lunch. Stat number 29 will make you question everything about financial planning. The average American thinks they need $1.7 million to retire comfortably, but the average person will actually retire with about $150,000 saved. People are aiming for nearly $2 million, but landing at $150,000. It's like training to be an Olympic athlete and showing up to compete in your pajamas. And here's stat number 30, which perfectly sets up how much more insane this journey is about to become. 41% of Americans plan to work past age 65, not because they love their jobs, but because they can't afford to retire. Nearly half the workforce is planning to keep working into their 70s, not out of passion, but out of financial desperation. They're turning retirement into an extended work program, like they're serving a life sentence with occasional vacation days. And trust me, if you think the savings numbers are shocking, wait until we get into what people are spending money on, because that's where financial common sense goes to die a very expensive death. Now we're getting into the really fun stuff. We've covered debt, housing, and savings, but now we need to talk about what people are actually spending their money on. And let me tell you, this is where financial logic doesn't just die, it gets cremated and then scattered to the wind. Stat number 31. The average American spends over $3,000 per year on dining out and takeout. $3,000. That's more than most people have in their emergency fund, but hey, at least they're well fed while being financially unprepared. People are literally eating their emergency funds, one overpriced sandwich at a time. But here's stat number 32, and this one's absolutely wild. The average person spends $1,800 per year on coffee and beverages. $1,800. That's enough to max out an IRA contribution for some people, but instead it's going toward caffeinated beverages and sugar water. We're choosing temporary energy boosts over permanent financial security. It's like trading your retirement for the privilege of staying awake during meetings. Stat number 33 is where things get really spicy. Americans spend over $4 billion annually on bottled water, even though most have access to perfectly good tap water. We're paying premium prices for something that literally falls from the sky for free. It's like buying air in a can when you're standing outside. The marketing departments of water companies are probably laughing all the way to the bank. Here's stat number 34, and this one will blow your mind. The average American household spends over $2,000 per year on entertainment subscriptions and streaming services. $2,000. Most people are paying more for the privilege of watching other people live interesting lives than they're investing in making their own lives interesting. They're funding Netflix's yacht collection while their own retirement fund looks like a piggy bank that's been on a diet. Stat number 35 gets even crazier. 68% of Americans make impulse purchases they later regret, with the average regretful purchase being $156. More than 2/3 of people are regularly buying things they don't want with money they don't have. It's like going grocery shopping when you're hungry, except instead of buying too much food, you're buying a decorative throw pillow that you'll stare at for 3 years, wondering why you thought you needed it. But wait, there's more. Stat number 36. The average American spends over $1,200 per year on clothes, but wears only 20% of their wardrobe regularly. People are maintaining expensive closets full of clothes they never wear. It's like having a library where you only read one book, but keep buying more books just in case you suddenly develop a passion for medieval poetry or advanced calculus. Stat number 37 is particularly brutal. Americans spend more on lottery tickets per year than on books, movies, music, and sporting events combined. We're literally gambling away more money than we spend on all forms of entertainment and education. People are choosing the 1 in 300 million chance of winning over the guaranteed benefit of learning something new. It's like choosing to play Russian roulette instead of chess because the potential payoff is higher. Here's stat number 38, and this one's a real kicker. The average person upgrades their smartphone every 2 years, spending over $800 each time, even though their current phone works perfectly fine. People are paying premium prices to make phone calls and send text messages slightly faster. We're treating phones like they're cars that need regular replacement, except cars actually wear out and phones just get slightly less shiny. Stat number 39 will make you question everything about consumer culture. Americans spend over $60 billion annually on their pets, with the average pet owner spending over $1,300 per year on their furry friends. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't love their pets, but we're spending more on dog grooming than we are on our own financial grooming. People are making sure their dogs have better health care than their retirement accounts. And here's stat number 40, which perfectly sets up how much more insane this financial circus is about to become. The average American household has over $300,000 worth of possessions, but less than $4,000 in savings. People are living in houses full of stuff they bought with money they didn't have, while having no money left over for actual emergencies. It's like being a museum curator for your own financial mistakes, carefully organizing all the things you couldn't afford while having no money to actually enjoy them. And trust me, if you think the spending habits are crazy, wait until we get into financial literacy and stress. Because that's where we discover that most people are making financial decisions with about as much knowledge as someone trying to perform brain surgery after watching a YouTube video. Now we're reaching the grand finale, and these last 10 stats are going to make everything we've covered so far look like child's play. We're talking about financial literacy levels that would make a goldfish look like a Wall Street genius, and stress levels that would make air traffic controllers seem relaxed. Stat number 41. Only 57% of Americans are financially literate, meaning nearly half the population is making money decisions without understanding basic financial concepts. It's like half the country is trying to navigate using a map that's written in a language they can't read, while the other half is confidently walking in the wrong direction. But here's stat number 42, and this one's absolutely wild. 72% of Americans experience financial stress that affects their sleep, relationships, and health. Nearly 3/4 of the population is letting money problems destroy their quality of life. People are lying awake at night worrying about money instead of dreaming about all the things they could do if they actually managed it properly. Stat number 43 is where things get really spicy. Only 39% of Americans could pass a basic financial literacy test covering compound interest, inflation, and diversification. More than half the population couldn't explain the basic concepts that determine their financial future. It's like most people are playing financial chess without knowing how the pieces move. Here's stat number 44, and this one will blow your mind. 88% of Americans learned about money management from their parents, but 61% say their parents were bad with money. Nearly 9 out of 10 people learned financial habits from people who were terrible with finances. It's like learning to drive from someone who's never passed their driving test, then wondering why you keep crashing into things. Stat number 45 gets even crazier. The average American checks their bank account only twice per month. People are managing their financial lives with less attention than they give to checking social media. They'll scroll through Instagram 15 times a day, but look at their actual money situation twice a month. It's like trying to drive cross-country by only looking at the road every 100 miles. But wait, there's more. Stat number 46. 64% of Americans would rather discuss their weight, age, or salary than talk about their debt. People are more comfortable sharing their most personal secrets than admitting they owe money. We've made financial problems more taboo than discussing our deepest insecurities. It's like we've decided that being broke is more embarrassing than being naked. Stat number 47 is particularly brutal. Only 28% of Americans feel confident about their financial future. Less than 1 in 3 people actually believe they're going to be okay financially. Most people are living like they're passengers on the Titanic, hoping someone else knows how to steer the ship while secretly suspecting everyone's just as lost as they are. Here's stat number 48, and this one's a real kicker. The average American will spend more time planning their vacation than planning their retirement. People will research hotels and restaurants for weeks, but spend maybe an afternoon thinking about the next 30 years of their lives. We're putting more effort into choosing where to eat dinner than deciding how we'll eat dinner when we're 80. Stat number 49 will make you question everything about financial priorities. 56% of Americans don't have a will, which means more than half the population hasn't even decided what happens to their money after they die. People are so focused on not having enough money while they're alive that they haven't bothered to figure out what to do with what little they have when they're dead. And here's stat number 50, the grand finale that puts everything into perspective. The average American will earn over $2 million during their working lifetime, but most will retire with less than $200,000 saved. People are making millions of dollars over their careers and somehow managing to spend almost all of it on things they can't remember buying. It's like being handed a winning lottery ticket every month for 40 years and somehow ending up broke anyway. So there you have it. 50 stats that prove the average person's relationship with money is more complicated than a soap opera and less logical than a fever dream. If you're currently panicking about your own financial situation, don't worry. At least now you know you're not alone in the chaos. The choice is yours to break these patterns or become another statistic, which you can do by watching this next video.